Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Social Innovation Conference, SICON 2020. My name is Nazia Ahmed. I'm the director and founder of the Social Outcomes Lab. And we have a really exciting session today. We will be talking about the ABC Trailblazers program with a set of really amazing people. But just before I get into introductions, I just want to do an acknowledgement to country to get us started. So I'd like to start by acknowledging the Darug people as the traditional custodians of the land that I'm conducting the webinar from. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of all the lands where our facilitators, our panelists, and our viewers are watching from today. I would like to pay my deepest respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge that Aboriginal people have a really rich culture and wisdom for all of us to learn from. And particularly being a second-generation migrant, I'm very grateful to Aboriginal people to welcome me into their land and for me to call Australia home. I'd also like to acknowledge that our Aboriginal brothers and sisters have faced a lot of trauma and hardship, and that the social outcomes for Aboriginal people are still much lower than the rest of the population. And I'd just like to share my commitment to work together with everyone to ensure that we have a really positive and bright future together, and that those gaps don't exist anymore going forward. On that note, welcome everyone. I'm so very excited for today's session. It's a session that's, I think, very dear to my heart. I'd just like to introduce all the people that are on the panel today. First and foremost, I'll introduce my colleague, Dr. Sally Curtis from the Australian National University, who is co-facilitating with me today. Hello, Sally. How are you today?
Hello, Nazia. Hi, Dan, Will, Samara, and Taz. Great to be with everyone in the audience today. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Sally. So, let me introduce the ABC Trailblazers crew, and we'll jump in and talk about the program in a minute. But first up, we have Dan Hirst, who's the executive producer of the Youth Impact area of the ABC. Welcome, Dan. How are you?
I'm really well. Thanks, Nazia. Thanks for having me. Well done. Getting this conference up and running in such a difficult time. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. It's a wonderful opportunity for us. Of course, we've worked together for a little while over the last 8 months or so, and it's given us the opportunity to really get to know you well. And we have 3 trailblazers with us today as well. So Samara from Cairns, William from Eden, and Taz from Tasmania. So welcome to all of you, and we'll go into doing some longer introductions in a moment. But I'd like to ask you, Dan, to just kick off and tell us a little bit about the ABC Trailblazers program.
Thanks, Nazia. So in short, the Trailblazers program, it's an accelerator, a leadership accelerator for young people. But it's different. Its point of difference is that it's for young people in regional Australia, regional, rural and remote Australia, and also that it's run by the ABC in partnership with the Australian government and philanthropic bodies. And so it has a focus on storytelling. And it fits within programs at the ABC called Haywire. And the Haywire programs are all about making sure that young people in regional Australia are heard, and also that they have the tools to make a difference in their communities. And I'd love to show a little video, if that's okay, about the program, about the Haywire program and in general.
That would be amazing. Thank you, Dan.
Only a couple of minutes. I'm sharing it now.
Writing about their struggles, Fenella recently won the ABC's Haywire competition. And Fenella joins us now from Canberra. You're a long way from home at the moment.
Hi, thank you for having me. with drought and a lot of environmental issues, we hear a lot of facts and statistics. So I think through storytelling, we can really humanise a lot of these issues.
So that's
What a
just
great-
yeah.
No, over to you, Dan. I was just going to say that's an amazing video, and just got me really pumped up and just reminding me of my time that I got to observe the Haywire program at the summit. But sorry, Dan, you were going to say, tell me.
I was going to say, did anyone spot Taz, Talitha or William in the video? So a couple of our panellists we snuck them into the video. I'm not sure whether you caught those. They were just little glimpses. So Haywires, it's a suite of programs, as you see in the video, that are all about making sure that young people in regional Australia are heard and that they have tools to make a difference in their communities. And just to tell you a little bit more about the Trailblazers program, which is part of our, which is one of the suite of programs. It's our leadership accelerator, and it's the one for people who already made a commitment to their communities to make a difference in their community and are running projects that are strengthening their regional communities. And we're going to hear from 3 of those young people in a moment, which is great. But I'd love to run you through just some of the details. If you're happy to share a couple of slides about Trailblazers, Nazia.
Absolutely.
Yes. So as I said, the key points of difference about the Trailblazers program is it really focuses on young social innovators based in rural and regional and remote Australia, and particularly those aged 18 to 28, and working projects that strengthen their community. And you can head on to the next slide. And as I said, because the ABC is one of the key partners in the program and runs the program, storytelling is a key focus. The ABC's focus is about making sure Australian stories are heard. And so making sure that young people in regional Australia who often aren't heard in the media, or when they are, it's often in a negative light. If you search for regional youth in Google, the sorts of stories that come up are not the beautiful stories that we're going to hear today. There's stories about crime, there's stories about drugs, disengagement, unemployment. And so, and because as a society, the stories we tell start to shape our values, we start to not value young people because we see them through this light of the stories that are told in the media. So part of the goal of Trailblazers is to make sure that a broader set of stories are told about young people, and that they're stories about young people who are doing great things in their communities. So we focus on storytelling, clarity of purpose, which can be found through storytelling. Those two are closely linked. Building networks. So we provide a lot of opportunities for young people to network with each other, but also with politicians, with journalists at the ABC, with others in the youth sector. And also well-being is increasingly becoming more important for us because, as we all know, it can being a social entrepreneur or being a social innovator can be a lonely experience at some times. And some of the key things that we can offer people who come through the program is presenting at Parliament House, present at the Great Hall of Parliament House, and also speak on the ABC and see a few clips of some of our Trailblazers speaking on the ABC. And just some of the most frequent things that are tackled by Trailblazers, these are the issues that are most commonly tackled. Youth empowerment, you'll hear from Samara later on, who has a terrific youth empowerment program. Rural employment, Will's, you're going to hear from Will, who's tackling unemployment and disengagement in his community. Social cohesion, mental health, disability, remote education, and connecting to culture. They're the key things that we see come through our program. And this is just, it might be a little bit small, but I just wanted to give you sort of a sense of some of the projects that come through Trailblazers, particularly that you're seeing names of places that are quite small communities, because so it's about unleashing the massive potential of young people in small and medium-sized communities that are often not recognised on the national stage. And so you'll see in there names like Batuta, Tennant Creek, small places in the Kimberley, Smithton in Tasmania. So it's about making sure that those stories surface and that those young people get opportunities that they might not otherwise have. So that's a little overview of the Trailblazers program.
That's a really fantastic overview. Thank you so much, Dan. And I think, there's so many things, but what I love particularly about the ABC Trailblazers program is that, the ABC has been able to incorporate what it's really good at and then turn that into a program that's developing change makers of the future. So, it's not like a traditional NGO or other kind of accelerator program that's set up only to do that, but rather it's a really unique way of a large organization taking what it already does and finding a way to make impact with it, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I think that's why our conference theme being social innovation, it's just such a fantastic example that you don't have to necessarily be involved in delivering frontline services to make an impact. Every organization can make an impact in some way or shape.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say it was a real joy trying to work out what the overlap between what social innovators needed and what the ABC could provide, and trying to work out what was in the middle of that Venn diagram. And the work around storytelling has turned out to be even more powerful than I think we imagined it would be in the first place.
That's brilliant to hear. And I'd like to hear more about that from you in a moment as well, Dan. But before we do that, I'd like to spend a little bit of time just introducing each of our amazing ABC Trailblazers. Each and every one of our panelists today are absolutely amazing, brilliant, inspiring young people, and I'm so honored to have you guys on board. So I think instead of me kind of reading things out, we've got sort of little clips that we can play, and then I'd love for each of you to tell me about yourselves and a little bit about your journey to becoming a social change maker and being the amazing human beings that you are. So should we start with Will Sharples?
Yep, I'm gonna get up Will's video in just a second.
Amazing.
So I'm calling this Will's hype tape now. So
it's like you're about to run onto the stage, Will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Will's about to enter.
high five to that. Will, tell us about yourself.
Oh, that's awesome video. But I'm William, and I run Eden Game Development Center, so we teach disengaged and disadvantaged youth how to make video games. So learning how to code, learning how to make art, learning how to make music, learning soft skills like cooperation and working together and overcoming obstacles in a fun environment that can lead to hobbies or even employment and careers, and employment in a way that can be done over the internet in long distance employment, which is valuable lately. So there's a lot of skills that just become valuable, and everything I've learned from the ABC Trailblazers program has just grown that exponentially ever since. So it's just been an up journey since then. I don't know if you want me to keep going.
that sounds really, really amazing. So are you born and bred in Eden? So you've lived in Eden your whole life?
Yeah, I've lived in the Eden and Bega Valley Shire. Most of my life I moved to the Shire over for high school for a couple of years, but came back. So lived here my entire life and just like the area.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I love what you're doing, of course. So we'll come back and we'll spend more time talking in detail. I think we'll do our next introduction of the amazing Talitha Taz Devadas, who's absolutely brilliant and amazing, and is also now an ABC Trailblazers facilitator. But let's see your video, which I love bopping to as well. Amazing. Welcome, Taz. How do you feel every time you see that video?
Thank you so much for having me here first. Just watching all of just those 3 videos we've just seen, I just feel incredibly privileged to be part of something this big. And yeah, I got a bit teary when I watched the Haywire one, actually. But yeah, it's pretty special.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And we'll hear more about everything incredible that you're doing and your changemaker journey soon as well. Next up, let's do a big introduction for Samara Joes. Samara is running an amazing program, Deadly Inspiring Youth Doing Good. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about that as well.
We'll play you a clip from Samara on ABC's News Breakfast program. Part of her Trailblazers experience was getting up at, I think, some ungodly hour, standing in the freezing cold outside Parliament House to do an interview. So I'm just going to play just a clip from that cold early morning.
Thank you.
Oops. Actually, that's just a still.
It's a good still. I love how you do your hair.
So, yeah, I just woke up, put on lots of makeup. I was like, let's just get out there and, yeah, see how we go at 6 a.m. in the morning. But yeah, it was good. It was really, really good.
Here we go.
Here's Samara Johes from Mount Sheridan in far north Queensland, who works with the organisation called Deadly Inspiring Youth Doing Good. And Samara joins us now from Canberra. Hey Samara, good morning. So tell us more about this group.
Good morning. Yeah, we're an absolutely amazing group down up in Cairns, so we're a little bit far away from home at the moment. We do really amazing things in our community. We're a collective of young people who started an organisation really about giving back to our community. Our whole purpose is around just doing good things.
That's just a little clip from the video.
That's amazing, Samara. It's wonderful that you got the chance to kind of be like a real celebrity and going there and getting that kind of media exposure, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that was like the first time I've ever done like anything like that. They put the whole ear plug in your ear and you can't see them. And it was really like, I proper felt like famous and, you know, it was like, let me sign some autographs or something, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's amazing. So, I mean, I'm keen to hear sort of more of your stories. And I think, you know, how we'll do this session today is just kind of really talk about everyone's experiences and you know, we'll pepper in kind of Dan's experiences of the program and running the program as well. But I might kind of start with Dan, if that's cool. So, Dan, I was wondering if you can sort of give me a little bit of you know, we saw the video, it's absolutely amazing. And yeah, and, you know, Taz, I was a bit teary too, and I didn't even go through the experience that you went through. I think it's just something that makes you feel so proud of regional and rural Australia and our young people too. So Dan, tell me a little bit about kind of the origins of the Trailblazer program and, you know, what process the ABC went through to come up with a social innovation like the Trailblazers program.
Yeah, so I guess the history starts back in 1998 when the Haywire program was born, and it started out as a humble essay writing competition. A radio essay competition is where it all began 23 years ago nearly. And so we were calling for stories from young people from regional Australia. They could tell us about anything that they wanted to, as long as it was a true story about their life. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we realised quite how powerful a thing we'd unlocked at that time, because it started off with young people telling their stories. And when you tell stories, special things happen. It creates connections, it creates communities. People gather around particular stories that they feel an affinity with. And so we started growing these communities and we then put a summit on that where young people would come along and tell their stories in person to politicians and so on in Canberra. And we saw off the back of that the power of telling your story. For example, standing up and telling someone about an issue you've experienced in your community, whether it's unemployment or whether it's the importance of the footy club in your town, or whether it's about suffering from a mental illness. Once you do that, you start to draw together people who have the same experiences or who are interested in that experiences, and it creates such an energy. I know that one of the amazing things about this kind of work is that within the ABC, it's something everyone wants to be a part of. Whenever I put a hand up, who wants to be a mentor for Trailblazers? Everyone wants in. And that's because once you're doing social innovation, once you're doing things that make the world a better place, people want to be a part of that. Everyone wants to make the world a better place. Just sometimes it's difficult to work out how. And so it creates this energy, and that energy that you see if you come to the summit is really infectious. And once you have that energy, you feel like you can do anything. And so I guess the history then was we starting all these little sparks all over the country, young people who wanted to do great things and had started doing great things. And there were all these little sparks starting around the country. And I get phone calls from people, I was so energised after Haywire, I want to do this, how do I do it? And I remember being on the phone to Prudence Mellum, who's a trailblazer up in Toowoomba, who started a program about storytelling and social cohesion and ending racism. And she was saying, I'm really energised and I really want to do this, but I feel kind of alone, and I need some support in doing this. I need to be connected in with more people. And when we started talking to her and other people who come through the program who are doing things, seeing what was it that they needed and what was it they wanted. And then it was really through that process of going, how do we serve these people? We can't, be doing hundreds of mentoring conversations throughout the year, we need to formalise this and find a way that the ABC and the Australian government, who are a strong partner in Haywire, can come together and give these young people an opportunity to be heard about the great work they're doing, but also provide them tools to amplify the work they're doing, to share those stories on the ABC, but also amplify their skills and their projects.
So that's really amazing. And I love how it went through all these evolutions. So it's not that you have to start with solving every, big problem. You can start somewhere small in essay writing competition and just see it kind of organically evolve, which is really wonderful. I think because Sally and I had the opportunity to work with you on doing the impact assessment for the Trailblazer program. So we intimately loved the program and spent a lot of time kind of analyzing it. So I think, one probably observation for us is probably that the management team is really amazing, who are kind of running this program, which is of course headed up by yourself. So Dan, I wanted to ask, because SICON it's about the social innovation programs, but it's very much about people drawing inspiration and wisdom from social change makers. And so what's your history? How did you end up running this amazing program and doing it sort of so efficiently and effectively? So tell me your journey, and then after that, maybe give, a piece of advice to someone sitting in an organization who might be wanting to be the Dan Hirst in that organization.
Thanks, Nazia. So look, my journey's a strange one. I started out as a broadcaster. I guess the most defining moment in my career was starting doing student radio and talking to people on radio and getting other young people in to talk about what they were up to on campus or in their lives. And that decision led to a whole lot of other things. After that, I worked in remote communities in radio, but I also worked as a journalist and documentary maker, working on investigative documentaries. But every job I've had has involved young people in some way. Even when I was making documentaries, I worked for PBS in America for a while, making documentaries, but as part of a university production house where we involve young people in the production of documentaries that would go on TV in the States on PBS. And so I was actually in America when the job at Haywire came up, and I thought, here's something that involves young people, it involves storytelling, it involves telling great stories. And I thought, I better come back. Now's time. I want to do that. And it's been the most magnificent thing working with people like Will and Taz and Samara. Is just, as I said before, it's just so energizing, and it's just it's the best job. I can't say enough about it.
Wonderful. Sally, did you have any questions for Dan?
Yeah, look, Dan, you used the word energy and kind of the sparks that the Haywire program was lighting around the country. And certainly when Nazia and I were with you at the Youth Summit, which is part of the Haywire program, we felt that energy an enormous amount and felt so uplifted after that week with your team and with the Trailblazers. I wonder if you could just take us through what the program looks like, for the three Trailblazers who are with us today. What experiences did they have through the Trailblazer program? And in particular, that week when you bring them to Canberra and the week of the summit.
Yeah, so the centrepiece is the summit week. It's an intensive week, and it starts really, and Taz will be able to talk about this in great detail too, because she's one of our facilitators now, which we're very excited to have her with us. So the first part is really about bringing them together, and it's all of it is about making connections. Everything is about making connections, and the first part is about connecting with each other as a support network. And then gradually throughout the week, through process of storytelling and skill building and leadership development, we're connecting with concentric circles of people. So you start off connecting with each other, and then you're connecting with some ABC staff members, and then you're connecting with government department representatives, and then you're connecting with representatives of government departments, and then MPs, and then you're presenting to them all at the end of the week. So it's this gradual expanding of your network and gradual expanding of your confidence over the week about telling your story and in different ways, and practicing that with these concentric circles of people. And I guess the highlights of the week are really that presentation at Parliament House, where you stand up and share your story and your project with an eminent audience at Parliament House, which many people have reported in the evaluation is a really transformative moment. And also after that, they get to spend time talking on radio with their local ABC, sometimes nationally, like Samara did, getting up early in the morning in the cold to go through the strange experience that is breakfast television. But yeah, it's these opportunities to connect with each other, and then the concentric circles, and then with the whole nation on the ABC.
That's
fantastic.
amazing.
And that week of the summit is just, it's so exciting. Nazia and I were observers that week, and it was just so exciting to see the group of trailblazers coming together, and the development as well, seeing their story at the start of the week through to their story on stage at Parliament House, where they presented to politicians and a room full of people, was just so impressive to see the change that the trailblazers undergo in that week, based on the ABC sharing your storytelling capability. It's quite extraordinary.
Oh, really extraordinary. Thank you. Thanks for that, Dan. Now, so I would really love to hear about the experience from our trailblazers too. So I'm kind of thinking, Samara, did you want to start and maybe share a little bit with us about how your experience was, and tell us about your amazing work with Didge?
Me? Yep, cool. Let's do this. Look, I'm one of the co-founders, and I'm currently the chairperson for Didge, Deadly Inspiring Youth Doing Good. And, you know, we've been on a little bit of a journey before we came to Trailblazers. We had been established, I guess we were together as a group of young people, because it wasn't just me. We had about, we had a fair few people that came in and out of this network of young people in Cairns, and we kind of just evolved over time from being a small group of people who just want to get out of the community and do good stuff, bring youth participation to the events where everyone else was crying out. They didn't know how to engage young people to get them there. We were trying to push young people and provide opportunities for young people to stand at the forefront of things. And it was really kind of empowering, because as part of this process, we formed a family, and, our family, that whole network it was safety. And we kind of evolved to this point where we'd gone through this process. We'd done quite a number of our own independent projects, and we'd learned a few things around, how to manage money and apply for small grants and bits and pieces like that. But when we came to Trailblazers, Dan talked a lot about, the process of storytelling and, talking about the purpose and the intent around Trailblazers. For us, it certainly, for me, it helped me to bring a few things to the forefront. I had always been a part, as the co-founder and one of the key leaders of it, I was always kind of doing this for everyone else and going as part of this process. It was very much about, well, what is your story in it? And how are you a part of this? And what do you actually bring to the table? And how are you looking after you? And, that whole process was so, I think, confronting in one way, but it was extremely empowering at the same time, because I literally remember just kind of breaking down and throwing my hands up in the air, going like, what am I doing? This is not me. And, went through like an emotional breakdown. But it was extremely powerful at the other end. I was lucky because I had 2 other of our young leaders come with me, and, Kaz was our facilitator, so she, invested that time into our crew, and the different kinds of conversations we were having, the shift and change in not just me, but then seeing my 2 comrades going through the same process themselves and their development in that week was like almost profound. We, at the end of it, it was a very big shift when we came back to Cairns, and the clarity around, I guess, knowing who we are as not just an individual, but who we are as a collective group of young people in Cairns leading our project. That was really quite the thing that kind of helped to move us into a different space again, and it helped me in the conversations I was having with people around, like, yes, this is my journey in it, then there's your journey in this, and everyone, the reason why we're all coming together for one sole purpose was so unique. Like, everyone came with these different stories, and that was the thing that I found the most that sat with me when I came back, that it was around the implementation, supporting our peers to go through that same process of like figuring out why you're here, what's your story, how did you get to this point, so that you know where you can and you want to map forward to. It was pretty amazing. Like, I just think we're always as social innovators, or we want to be able to change the world. We want to be able to do good things. We want to see the world just flourish. Yeah. But it comes, it's a challenge, and it's a hard slog times, and it's, downright you get to that point and you're like, thank you, I'm ready to walk out the door. And then you kind of walking back through the front door because you go, no, I'm not going anywhere. And these kinds of opportunities like Trailblazers was very much about cementing for me why I am here, why I haven't walked out the door, and why I'm probably always going to be some sort of part of some sort of social movement in some way, shape or form, or, I'm not going to be a young person forever, but I might be able to help other young people and do whatever, and, all those kinds of things. So it's always going to be there. It's like my identity.
Wow, that's amazing. And so did the kind of going through the process of finding your story that helped you kind of, seal what your identity is? And that's
100%. Because my nervous breakdown was the fact that my identity was attached to something else that was completely, utterly and taken away from me, and then like, oh, who am I? What do I do? What am I? But, at the end of the day, my identity is that I love, I'm kind, I'm, little bit womba in the head and like to talk like this and real loud sometimes. And, that's me, like, that's who I am. And wanting a better world for me, my brothers and my sisters, my community, like, that is who I am. It's not that specific program, not that specific job. It will always be in some way, shape or form something about a social movement or a social change, and wanting to see this amazing world, and probably staying up really late and, doing lots of work that I don't get paid for, but being a part of it.
Look, and that's so amazing.
I've resigned the fact that I'm never going to be paid for a lot of things, but that's okay.
You know what? You never know, one, but the other thing is, doing things from your soul. That's the greatest wealth of all, right? So
100%.
So how amazing!
Do all things with kindness. That is literally what it is about.
That's it.
Doing things with love.
so beautiful. And no, we can get that vibe from you. I got that vibe from you straight away when I first met you. So I'm gonna ask, so Will and Taz, did you guys have what was your experience? Was it similar to Samara's, or I want to hear more about Dij and more from you, Samara, in a sec as well. So Will and Taz, were your experiences similar, or was it different in terms of, you know, the journey that you went on? Did you also have breakdowns and, you know, figure out your why? Like, it's amazing.
I think for me, the thing that I've known is, and I can't say this about many organizations, but throughout my life, the ABC has always championed me. And when I was 10 years old, I thought I was going to be a journalist or a writer, and I was in a poetry competition and thought nothing of it. But a couple of months later, the ABC contacted me and were like, "Oh, we'd love to showcase your poem, and we're going to pay you for it." And I was like, "What? This is like a real thing?" And so in my head, I've always been like, "Oh, the ABC." And so when I applied to become a trailblazer, I was 28, borderline, like I was just about to be too old. And I was like, I cannot miss out on this opportunity. So I actually called the team and said, "Hey, look, I know it's going to be really close to the deadline, but can I still do this?" And they were so lovely. And I knew that was the start of something really, really special. I think Samara was 100% like just spot on with what she said. There's a moment during the week when you think, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go there and I'm going to learn how to make my project the best thing in the world." And I'm going to walk away being like, "Damn, I just know what I'm doing." But for me, it was like a bit of an unraveling in the best kind of way possible, because I thought, like, you know, I was a bit of I knew what I was doing a pretty cool project, and then I would sort of wander in there and we'd talk about my project. And then Matt O'Sullivan, who was my facilitator, was like, "Taz, you know, cut the rubbish. Let's get to the heart of this. Why do you do what you do?" And I was like, "Oh no, I have to talk about myself and have to think about like how I got into this." And that was like confronting in a really good way. And it made me really think about, you know, the kind of person that I am and the heart that I carry and the heritage that I carry for my family and my community. And I think it made me, I've got this like inside me, this, I don't know, ball of pride that I will carry always from that week that I spent in Canberra. Not because of, you know, the incredible program, but just because of the things I learned that week. That whenever things are hard now and I'm thinking like, why am I doing this? You know, one day will I just grow up and get a real job? But then I think back to the things I learned that week. I'm like, nah, this is who I want to be. This is the kind of person I want to be. And I can do this. There are other people out there like me. And that's what I learned. Like, Trailblazers taught me that your story is so important and you can do all the best things in the world, but it's really about who you are, not what you do. And it connected me with incredible people, and it changed my life, because the team continued to champion me by letting me be part of this and meet incredible people like Samara and the rest of the Trailblazers this year. But yeah, I think there was just this incredible thing about it's you can care about things and you can care about them for the rest of your life. You don't have to be a young idealistic person. You can be an idealistic change maker for the rest of your life, and we want to set you up to do that. And to me, that was like, oh, you just kind of grow out of this, you know, you're going to turn a magical age and suddenly you grow out of it. But being at Trailblazers, I realized that, no, like, this is who I am. Like Samara said, this is the heart that you have, and there's people out there that will support you and champion you, and that was magical to me.
That's really incredible. Dan, how do you feel when you're hearing this, you know, Taz and Samara talking about this being, like, I just think it's remarkable that, they could be thinking that, oh, okay, well, I'll grow out of this, or I might not continue this, but going through the program, they're sort of finding themselves as a change maker. How does that make you feel?
Obviously brilliant. But this is the real joy of the work I get to do. I get to be on the periphery of so many brilliant things, and I get to see people like Taz and Samara and Will and so many other people who come through the Trailblazers program go on to do brilliant things, and to be able to share part of that journey is a huge honour.
Yeah, amazing. Will, what about you? What was your journey like? And tell us about what you're doing about your social change project.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate what Samara has said, that I would say the exact same thing. Like, I remember my first pitch drafts or speeches, for Parliament House. I didn't even talk about myself at all. It was all just, these are the kids I'm helping, this is the objective I want to do. And I wasn't a part of it. This is just what's happening. And then through the Trailblazers and mentors and Matt and stuff and everybody, it made me, like, forced me to talk about myself in a way, like, to make me understand that the story that I was a part of, like, I wasn't doing anything. I just felt like a nobody in a rural town doing nothing. And then by going through Trailblazers, it made me realize that there's people all over Australia doing stuff, and I was just one of those people that are doing stuff. So I felt like there's this whole world of people in Australia. Like, Australia opened up. It's like a perspective shift or a filter. Like, it opened up the filter to see what everyone else is doing in Australia, and it's like, wow, there's a lot of amazing stuff going on, and it just makes you believe that you can do stuff and people can do stuff. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. And if all these people here are doing it, like, it's just amazing. And the vibe of the whole week, I always try to get back at the end of it every week and sneak into the audience and see the pictures again, because every year there's always new people doing new stuff, and just amazing what anyone can do it. So if you're thinking of doing it, I recommend it. But about me, yeah, it's opened up so many opportunities after it. So I've done so many different things, like presentations in Melbourne and at PAX for education and schools. It's the ongoing effects are just, you can't imagine what they will be. Like, even coming to talk here today and getting to see you guys again and talk to the audiences, like, things like this I wouldn't have imagined doing before going to Trailblazers. It's just an amazing experience, and it's continuing to grow, and for some reason it's just growing and it's enjoyable, and there's a lot of unpaid hours, but you do it because you enjoy it and you see the outcomes of the people you work with in the organization. So I see the kids and the youth getting employment, and it's like, okay, that's one more kid with a job that you helped, and it's like, okay, that's not changing the world or anything, but that's probably a good thing for them to have happen. And it's like every little story like that you see along the way, and the emotional stories. I remember one little girl that was like 8 or something, one of the game development sessions, in the middle of teaching everyone, she came up and like tugged on my shirt. It was like, there was these golden triangles things that were cutted, and she's like, thanks for teaching me how to make video games. And she just handed it to me in front of everyone. And I was like, thanks. And I just felt like things like that don't happen to me. That's just like, it was embarrassing, but it was so nice, and like just things that happen along the journey. And it's like, just keep doing it, and it's worth it, and anyone can do it.
That's amazing, and that's very humble of you to say, right? So, I mean, a couple of things. So firstly, I mean, giving someone a job is a really, really big deal, right? And that's changing their whole life. You know, employment is livelihood, and it's so many other things. So, so well done. And I want to hear more about like how you do it and your actual project as well. The other thing I think is like, you're all really humble as well, because you're sort of saying, you know, anyone can do it, and yeah, of course. But the reality is that, you know, and Samara and Will, you both kind of talked about it. You put in a lot of unpaid hours as well, because you sort of love doing it. It's not easy running social change projects. There's so many parameters and variables and uncertainties to kind of deal with, and I'm sure it's sort of really exhausting. So hats off to all of you, because you're, you know, it's not just a, you know, like a you know, feel good thing. You work really, really hard to get that feel good feeling at the end, right? So it's really wonderful, and it's wonderful that the ABC is kind of giving you, this journey, but also like skills to be able to sort of grow your projects. Will, tell me a little bit about how your social change enterprise. Should I call it a social enterprise? Do you call it a social enterprise?
Yeah, I could call it social enterprise.
How does it work? Like, so tell us end to end what your sort of, what your offering is and how you get people through the door, and how it all works, how it's funded.
So it all started with a random grant that someone showed me because I was doing nothing. Like, here's a grant, this is an opportunity, and I applied for the grant, and somehow I got it, the first grant I ever applied for. I didn't even know grants were a thing at that point. So it's like, people will give you money to do things. This is cool. But I was like, I spent a long time writing the grant, trying to articulate every single thing of their guidelines and try and make it perfect. I spent a lot of time. So I guess it paid off. And then I started the Eating Game Development Center, where we started off with a game jam, so a hackathon, if you know the terminology, of like a couple days, make a game over a couple days. Anyone can come. You don't have to have any skills in anything. You come in, you meet new people, you organize, come up with ideas. If I want to make this cool game about surfing, I want to make this cool game about jumping over barrels, or whatever you want to do. And then people go, I can join your team. I'll help you make that game. And then people kind of get in groups, and you help that happen, and then they go off in their groups, and over the couple of days they organize who's going to do the art, who's going to do music, or whatever they want to organize. And at the end of the 2 days you get them with the finished product of varying quality, because it's a couple of days rushed product. So it's like a jumpstart quick course of everything you need to know about game development and everything you could learn. And then that's just a good project to do, and it's always a lot of fun to do it like that. And then we have weekly sessions and monthly catch-ups and stuff, where it was like having that space where people could come, especially for youth that didn't have much to do in their free time, or just didn't have much to do, or what they had to do wasn't really educational, or didn't have much career paths in it. So having that space where people could learn employable skills and get careers, even make friends and hang out. And it was often, you would often have the room just laughing because everyone's joking around and having fun, and you'd forget that you're learning. And it's not like sitting in a school room going, I can't wait to leave, I want to go. Everyone's just hanging out, learning. Like, I'm even learning myself. I don't know everything there is to know about game development. So when someone comes up with something new and crazy I've never seen before, I'm like, oh, show me how you did that. I want to learn that thing too. So I get to learn. It's like we're all in the same boat, learning and just growing and having fun. And that's what I tried to create that environment a lot more after going to Haywire and Trailblazers, because that week, that feeling that everyone has is just such a enjoyable experience. And we did so much. I remember sleeping for a couple of days after the Trailblazer experience because it was so exhausting, but I just remember having so much fun and liking it all that you didn't worry about doing all the work. So if I could create that environment in what I was doing to some degree, then they could forget about all the work and stress and hardness of it, to just have fun and enjoy learning. And then once they've got the skills, we can bring them to different organizations or industries and show them the pathways to get those careers if they want to pursue this and go further and take to the next step. And Trailblazers program has helped out with that kind of connections to make with different networks and make us more professional in that kind of setting, so we can go to people and say we've been to Trailblazers, done this, and it's grown our portfolio to help all these things happen. And that's a general pipeline of what we try to do. We just try to provide education, social benefits, and just a place to hang out for people, bare minimum.
I love it. And so what are those kind of career paths that people end up taking, or they can take?
That's the thing I love about video games. Well, I just love video games, but one of the benefits of developing video games is you get the coding aspect of it, which is coding is an ever increasing valuable skill that is only getting more valuable by the day, with technology seeping into every industry everywhere. So learning to code is just an amazing thing to get a good career in the future. Then there's things like art. If you see art like a billboard or on the TV or music, you gotta want to get on the radio and learn how to cut a song, or learn how to, anywhere you have digital music or digital art, those skills that you use to make a video game can be applied in any of those other industries. So using video games as a way to learn the basics of all these skills, branch out into almost like so many different industries. It's longer to list the ones that don't use those skills than it does. So yeah,
it's pretty phenomenal. You have fun, you learn, you become really employable, and you're completely ready for a post-COVID world as well, with our increasing reliance on technology. Will, it's really cool. I hope you can run some video game development courses for older people such as myself, and in my desire to become really cool as well. I would love to to come by.
Well, we didn't have an age limit on the thing. We just said anyone that wanted to come. We had like 60-year-olds come in sometimes and making games, and older, so anyone can do it. And that's what I always preach. As long as you got a computer, the internet, and the skills, you can do it anywhere. So it's really great for rural places as well.
Awesome, thank you, Sally. Dan, let's do this, right? Samara, so Will, you're obviously achieving really great social outcomes, and Samara, I know that in DIG you're also bringing people together, and you sort of started with, I think it was Tuesdays, right? Tuesday pizza nights. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do at DIG, why you set it up, and what your plans are for the future as well, and what kind of outcomes you're seeing happening in Cairns.
Yeah, like our whole organisation started literally because we were coming together once a week on a Tuesday night, and we would do a whole sort of range of random things, and a lot of the intent behind that first sort of startup was purely about providing that space for young people who, once they've left high school, to maintain positive connections. We know that sometimes it's really hard for young people to be, find positive and maintain positive relationships after they leave school. And so bringing them together just kind of then exploded into, okay, well, we're going to go participate in different things, and we're going to look after each other. We're going to make sure that we keep in check on each other, and okay, someone didn't come this week, I hope they're okay. Like it was very much about looking after and building a network of people that wanted better for themselves, and that was that's kind of where it started. And then it grew into, okay, well, we're going to go camping, we're going to invest a little bit more time, and then strengthen those bonds, and we're going to get to know each other a little bit more deeper. What do you stand for? Who are you? What are your values? It got quite, it got really intense. We're actually doing a review at the moment of our Tuesday nights, an internal review, just to go, why did we do this again? And it was really a powerful moment when I had one of our young people to say, Samara, without this, I probably wouldn't be here. And for me, it's that kind of stuff. And when we talk about social impact, the success of social impact is when we are changing the lives of one person. we don't know how many lives we're going to impact or, you know, things. But if we can, you know, when someone tells us that, that means we know we're doing something right, and we need to keep doing it. That's for sure.
What do you think that something is, Samara? Why do you think that what you're doing has had such a big impact on someone to the point that, you know, it saved them from, ending their life, basically? So what is it that Dig does that you think will help that person?
It's really, you know, it's a loaded question, I guess. It's how do you put down, you know, one thing? How do you, like this, it's not any one thing, you know, I think can have an impact on somebody to that extent. And I think for us, the way that he articulated it to me was that we're family, that when you know, the things hit the fan, you know, he had people that he could go to. He had a network that could pick him up and just accepted him with universal acceptance. Like, there's no judgment. You are you know, you come with your unique personality and all that kind of stuff, but we love you anyways. And I think that, you know, we, at the core, it's about teaching our young people just accept and love each other for everything that we bring, the good and the bad, and being able to go, all right, just come in for a hug now. Sometimes, and I think that's sometimes all that we need, and we don't build enough spaces for that to happen enough. Places like, you know, programs like Trailblazers provide those kinds of opportunities for people to go and dig deep and, you know, look outside of themselves and in themselves and just go, okay, I need a hug right now, and then we're going to keep going, you know? So it's powerful stuff, and I think it comes down to relationships. If we are connected, we're going to build a relationship, you're going to respect me, I'm going to respect you, then, man, we can do anything.
Maybe people feel like they belong somewhere, right? They belong in Dig.
100%. And, you know, we try and preach that this is everyone belongs here. Everyone has a right to be in this space. You know, no one has a right to feel like they don't have time and space and opportunity to be in here. And that for me is the thing that I always come down to, regardless of what happens and what we do and what we don't do. But yeah, so it's been a certainly big journey to finding our strengths as a collective of people and how we sort of continue to build on those.
That's brilliant. That's really brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. And so, you know, I guess on the theme of, I guess part of what Dig does is it empowers people, right? And so on that note, Taz, your work as being an enterprise facilitator, which is kind of what we saw in your amazing video, that's where you kind of started when you went through the ABC Trailblazers journey. And of course, now you're a facilitator, and also you've started up your own social change and economic development consulting firm. So tell us sort of, about what you're doing now and the impact that that's making and what you see for the future.
Big questions, but exciting times. Firstly, I've just loved listening to everyone else just talk about this, and it's very, very, it's heartwarming, it's inspiring, and that's what Trailblazers is, so it's pretty special. So when I was a Trailblazer, I was an entrepreneurship facilitator, and to this day, I think it's one of the coolest things that the Australian government tried as a pilot. So they picked 3 regions in Australia that had high levels of youth unemployment, and they thought, how about we give people the support that they need to try and start something if they have an idea. And the idea was kind of what Will was talking about, that if you have the resources and the support and you have an idea for what you might want to do with your life, let's encourage entrepreneurship and give you that to get going. And the program was a standout success across the country, to the point where after about a year, the federal government decided that they wanted to sponsor 20 more across the country. And so I'm really, really proud to be part of that legacy. And so I just finished up in that role earlier this year because I finished the first pilot, and it's really cool because we now have a succession and we have another person in that role in Launceston. And so I was finishing up, and at the time when I sort of knew I had a couple of months to go, I'd been speaking to Dan about this, and the cool part of the Trailblazer journey is the ABC team is there to support you. And I know that Dan had been, even from like a year out, I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. And Dan was like, just pick how you want to do something, whatever you want to do, Taz, and we'll talk it through with you. We love to support that kind of thing. And that was really special because it felt very scary. Like Samara said, it was kind of my identity, that role. It was my baby for 3.5 years of my life. And so having that support from the Trailblazer team was incredible. And so my best friend, who I had that volunteer journey with, where for years and years and years and years, my friend Em and I, we had done all the kind of things that Samara's talking about, Will's talking about, the millions of unpaid hours and the late nights. And we were kind of just like, we could never ever consider this for business, because that's what you do, you volunteer, and that's how you create change. And somewhere along the journey between Trailblazers and between great conversations with Dan and other awesome people, I realized I actually know, like, this is something we could actually do. And so we had a really rough year the year before, so 2019, and we were thinking, let's do something. If you don't change now, you're never going to get that chance. And we decided to start up our own thing called Futures Isle. And Futures Isle is based on the idea that you can be wherever you want to be in Australia, but there's opportunities for you. And we just want to play a part in helping people to connect to those things and helping people have a friend in their corner, basically. And so we didn't really know what we were going to do. That we were like, sweet, we've got an idea, but what does that mean? And it's when we spoke to Dan about it, he was like, awesome, we want to support you. And he brought us on to help with Trailblazers, which was like a dream come true for us. And so these days, Futures Isle is basically a bit of a ghost organization because we got started, and then before we could do all the things you normally do, and as a business advisor, this made my heart tingle, because I'm like, we don't have business cards, we don't have a website. But that wasn't it. The whole point of it was we started a business to have impact. And I quickly realized that I could think that I know the best marketing strategies in the world, but that wasn't why people were going to contract us. It was because of the heart and the passion and the enthusiasm and all the things that you can't actually put a dollar value on. And so, at the moment, we support a number of youth organisations in providing external skills for them. So like the ABC and a couple of other organisations on some on the mainland, some here in Tassie. And the idea is we just want to work on cool projects with cool people. And what that looks like doesn't really matter as long as it's having impact. It's primarily in the youth space. And the idea is if we can help organisations that can then expand their skills by, bringing us on to help in a different area, it means that organisation that's already doing really, 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 really cool stuff will have a capacity build and then can go on to impact many, many more people. And like Samara said, and like Will said, that it's those stories of one person that was supported, that one person that had help. And when you amplify that by working with awesome organisations, awesome projects, I think that's when our world changes. Because doing it in isolation by myself, when I was working on the Entrepreneurship Facilitators program, I talked to 650 people in my region, many of those who went on to go and start businesses. And that was awesome. But imagine if I could talk to and work with an organisation that can amplify that by 10 times or 200 times. And that's why being someone who works with organisations and knowing awesome people like the people I met at Trailblazers, to me, I think that collaboration is super key for a positive future.
That's absolutely amazing. Wishing you the very best success to Future Isle. So Future Isle providing enterprise facilitation services to young people in organizations. And you know what, it's the Social Outcomes Lab didn't have a website for the first year and a half because we were too busy working. And like you, it felt terrible because you know what you need to do as someone with a business background. But hey, you know what? It's having good client relations is probably important. So Future Isle and we'll kind of get all your details up and things as well. So I'm going to ask you guys one last question, but I'll let you think about it for a bit, right? Because I want you to give your one key piece of advice to young people who are thinking about doing their social change project. So think about that. And in the meantime, Sally, I want to ask you and Dan to talk a little bit about the findings from the impact assessment that we did of the ABC Trailblazers program. So we've heard firsthand about the kind of impact that this social innovation program is making. But what were your findings? What were our findings, Sally?
Thanks, Nazia. So the ABC asked the ANU and the Social Outcomes Lab to evaluate the Trailblazers program. So the Trailblazers program started in 2017. And so in the last, late last year, they engaged us to do an evaluation to see what was working and to understand what they could do to make it even better. And so Nazia and I worked with Dan and his youth impact team at the ABC to do the evaluation. And I guess, we thought this might be interesting for those who are watching, who might be managing a program or even managing a social change program or project, and showing you what an evaluation might look like. So I'm just going to share my screen and share a little about our findings and the evaluation and what was involved. So what I've done here is shared my screen, and this is just a few pages of the evaluation report that we provided to Dan and his team at the ABC. So as you can see, it was a collaboration between the ANU and Nazia at the Social Outcomes Lab, and we delivered this just this year. So June 2020 is the date on this. So this is what we did to evaluate the program. So we collected a whole bunch of data, and so we did surveys, we looked at project data that the ABC had, we did a survey after the summit and understood the training satisfaction. We conducted focus groups of trailblazers and also mentors on the program. We also observed the summit, so that's what I referred to earlier. Nazia and I were at the summit and we just observed how the program worked in that week. And then we also conducted individual interviews with some of the trailblazers and looked at the ABC broadcast data. So lots of data, and so what I wanted to share with you was just a couple of pages from the evaluation that shows some of the key findings. So this is what it looks like to, to be broadcast on the ABC and some of the impact that the program has. So of course the ABC has the capacity to broadcast to an audience Australia-wide. So they had 11 trailblazers appeared on ABC TV News Breakfast. Lots of likes on the Facebook page. More than 35 radio interviews that trailblazers did on the ABC. 16 interviews on Triple J. Some stories on Landline, which of course is the main series for regional Australia, very popular with regional Australia's the Landline show. And then in this year they also had digital articles, and so they had almost 400,000 views of those pages. So you can see that the trailblazers who participate in the program get a lot of exposure nationwide, with every Australian having the opportunity to view their stories. And then the impact on participants, what we found, and I think this kind of comes through strongly in the stories we've just heard from Taz and Will and Samara. The program increased their confidence, it improved their storytelling ability, improved well-being So we had a measure of well-being before and after the program, and 83% of respondents said that they thought the program improved being. It also had an impact on projects. So for some trailblazers and their projects, they were able to obtain more resources. It improved the legitimacy. So having the ABC back you was something that was very important for, I think Samara used the word validating her project and you know, their social change project. So having that ABC backing really helps with legitimising the Trailblazer and the project, and of course expanding networks, which we've heard about. So far the ABC supported 39 social change projects since the program was introduced in 2017. That includes 48 young leaders, because sometimes Trailblazers will have more than one person who comes onto the Trailblazer program, and so that's why you see 39 projects but 48 leaders. And this year, the program also introduced the opportunity for grant funding. So some of this grant funding came as a result of just the skills that Trailblazers developed as a result of the program and being able to write grant applications. But this year, the ABC partnered with the Sally Foundation and provided some small grants to some projects. And, you know, all in all, 95% satisfaction rating from participants, which is pretty good. So that's kind of, you know, what our findings and all of our research showed us with respect to the evaluation. And of course, we also worked with Dan and the team to talk about what we could do, what they could do to have an even greater impact. And so that was something that we worked on together as well. So that's, I guess, we thought it might be helpful for those of you who are managing programs to see what an evaluation might look like. And really the purpose of the evaluation is to understand how to have even greater impact, greater social impact. So I don't know, Dan, how did you find the experience of the evaluation?
Look, it was a terrific experience going through that. I mean, the reason we wanted to do an evaluation, there's twofold reasons really. The first one, as you said, it's very much about understanding how we can do things better. Because as you can hear from the way I talk, I love this program, and that love for it can blind me, can also blind you to what are the failings of your program or what areas you need to improve. So giving yourself that, going through an evaluation process is about giving you some objectivity on your own project, so that you're not making assumptions that because of how much you love the program. So that's number one. And the second one is really about communicating the benefits of the program to an audience, whether that be people who want to invest in the program or whether it be other trailblazers who might want to come on board and do the program, to see whether it's what they want to get out of it, whether it'll give them what they want to get out of it. So it was hugely beneficial to do that. And I think the third reason is it really gives you a spring in your step and a confidence. You go, oh, it's not just me that thinks that. And so you go into everything you do now with more confidence, because you know what's working and what isn't, and you know you're not fooling yourself.
Yeah, fantastic. And I mean, Nazia and I still talk about how much of a positive experience it was working with you and your team, Dan. And I think, you know, the reason it was so positive is because you were so open. And for someone who's doing an independent evaluation, that's kind of the perfect partner, someone who's really open to, opening things up and really getting some honest feedback about how the program is going. And so it was just a delight to work with you and Alex and Jonathan and Imogen and the team at the ABC. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Nazia. You're on mute.
Sorry, thanks. Yeah, I think I would echo that like 100%, that the reason it was so, it was so wonderful to do the evaluation. I keep saying that, but, as evaluators, we did step back as well. And despite the fact that we love the Trailblazers and everything, we still put an objective lens over it, which is what you do. But what was really great is that, Dan and your team, you were genuinely open to just hearing about, what's working and what could be improved. Sometimes it's normal when you go in to do evaluations that program owners, they want to do an evaluation, but at the same time they sort of don't, because it can be very intimidating to lay everything out there and then kind of get that feedback. And I we can totally understand that. So it was a really, really wonderful experience for us, and also so you have such a sophisticated team. You were so good with getting data to us and working together and reviewing everything. So yeah, really, really wonderful experience. So thank you, Dan, for that experience.
Thank you, guys. It was a great process and a collaborative one, which I think sometimes when I've worked with evaluators in the past, where you the evaluation has to be useful, and this is something that I know you talked about, but it has to be useful too, and so being flexible in the way of making sure that it was something that actually provided us useful feedback, and checking that, we think this is what's going on. What do you guys think? And that sort of co-design of the solutions is really valuable.
So Dan, what surprised you from the evaluation? Were there any surprises?
Look, I think the thing that surprised me most was how much being on the ABC, what weird and wonderful things can happen when you tell your story to the nation. And it could be that someone offers you funding. I mean, there was an example of a CEO of a bank calling someone up and saying that, oh, I heard you on the radio and I really want to be involved in your program. How do we do that? And offering resources and support and so on. But also growth in likes or new attached, connecting with that audience. All sorts of things can happen. New volunteers, new schools calling up wanting to be involved, those sorts of things. So I liked all the storytelling around that, and the fact that I think nearly 70% of people do get some kind of resource from a project, which is not a project where we're saying you're going to get funded at the end. It's not an incubator like that, but through storytelling and going out and connecting with people, you find that these resources do come, and so that was really interesting for me, because it's not the thing we set about as our first objective.
Yeah, okay. So the benefits that can flow from just being associated with the ABC, but also being able to tell a story, because I think one of the things we found is that connection between trailblazer or an individual being able to tell their story in such a convincing but also authentic way that can have a huge impact on the social change project as well. Yeah. And so the ABC capability around that, the storytelling and imparting knowledge around how to tell a good story, even though it's part of, I know you always say, Dan, storytelling is what we do, and we do it every day, but you guys do it really well at the ABC, and so you could really see the impact that has on the individuals who participate in the program, and how effective they become at telling their story in an authentic, genuine way.
Absolutely, and I think that the interesting thing about that, and I find storytelling endlessly fascinating, but we've heard about how storytelling has helped people connect with others in all these different ways, whether it's through grants or bringing in volunteers. But storytelling, we've also heard from Will and Samara and Taz all about how that storytelling actually affects them as an individual as well. It has both the effect of drawing people in connection, but it also has the ability to take control of your own narrative and to look back on your life and to work out which direction you're going and understand your own personal narrative. And so that came through in the evaluation, how storytelling can really connect with an audience, but also it benefits the individual who's telling the story as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that I teach courses at ANU on leadership and social impact, and we always look at the evidence around leadership and what we know about successful leadership. And it turns out that leader identity, and Samara, I know you talked a lot about the kind of identity and knowing who you are and what you stand for. That's actually a critical part of being successful as a leader or a trailblazer or social change maker. So so it's really powerful.
Wonderful. So I love how we're all sort of bringing all our different experiences in, and you can kind of see this beautiful, that's how innovation happens, right? Collaboration and people's different expertise and identities coming through. So I'm going to ask each of you that question that I said that I was going to ask. I know that, I've taken up a lot of your time today, and frankly, I'd love to keep talking to you, and I hope we can for ages. But so, okay, I'll start with you, Taz. If you had to give one piece of advice to a social change maker based on your own challenges and your successes, right? What's one piece of advice straight from the heart to someone who's kind of thinking about, starting their anything big or small, their own social change initiative? What's one thing that they could go away and do today to get started?
I think that if it's something that's burning on your heart and there's something that you care about, if you don't address it, it's just going to be always there. And so I guess the thing that I would say is tell someone about the idea. So like Dan said, stories are everywhere. And so the first thing is you tell someone, and that person then starts to encourage you. And you tell a few more people, and someone might say, oh, don't go for it. But the rest of the people might say, yeah, here's someone you can go talk to. So it starts like that little spark that starts the fire. But if you sit on it, it will just burn away at you. And I think that talking to people about it, you'll never know who you meet. We're always happy to hear ideas at Trailblazers, so you could contact us. But there are so many people that would be keen to hear that idea if you've got something you want to change in this world.
Gosh, what a great piece of advice. That's something that someone can action today. That's brilliant. Thank you, Taz. Who wants to go next, Will or Samara? Will, tell me what's your one piece of advice?
I would just say, just do it. But to elaborate on a little bit, I remember a quote that blew my mind ages ago was, I always wondered why somebody didn't do something about that. And then I realized I was a somebody. So what you're interested in and what your values are and what you want to change or what you want to make happen, that you can make that happen. But if you don't try and you just think, oh, why doesn't a banker who's a billionaire or a politician, they don't have the same values or interests, they're not gonna. So you just have to try to make it happen, and it's most likely not going to be easy if it's a complicated thing, but every time you run into something like, but it's hard, or but I don't have the money, they're just the things you have to do to achieve the thing you want to do. You can't let those things stop you. They're just obstacles or things you need to overcome to do it.
Beautiful. So don't stop and overcome your obstacles. Love it. Thank you. Samara, what do you think? What's one thing someone can do today?
I think my piece of advice is to put value on what you know and what you have already. Too often we put so much emphasis on what we don't know and what we need to have before we can even do anything. I think everybody has the ability to just reach out and connect. And I think, you know, if you value who you are as a person and you know that you have a good heart, then that's the best place to start. So you are a package of amazingness, and use your amazingness to the best of your ability to impact other people's lives. So just like Will said, just do it.
My God, how amazing. We've got write it down, don't stop, right? Don't stop if there's an obstacle, and value yourself, right? There are 3 things that you can do today to start your social change journey. Dan, did you have anything to add to that before we say goodbye today?
Oh, I can't top what those guys have said. Those guys are out there doing amazing things. No, look, I just know that once you start these kinds of journeys, the energy is infectious. People, like I said, everyone wants to change the world. So if you're the one who starts something, other people want to join you because it's so energizing for everyone.
That's amazing. Thank you, Dan. What about you, Sally? Did you want to add anything to that? What's your one piece of evidence-based advice?
Look, Nazia, don't get me started. Look, you know, I think in order to have impact, it's about getting a collective of people together to have impact, and that's what I see the Trailblazer program doing. And so, you know, Taz said, if you've got an idea, talk to someone about it. And, you know, I think you also get energy from others when you start sharing your ideas, and other people will jump on board. And so collective leadership is really helpful in creating positive impact. And so, and it also provides a social support network as well for the tough times, because it's not always easy. And you've heard each of the Trailblazers talk about that. So talk about your ideas, and you know, find other people who are like-minded people and work together.
That's amazing. Listen, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you to all of you for joining us today. Dan, Will, Samara, Taz, yeah, we are so blown away by what you had to share. We're absolutely so humbled to have had you all on board. And Dan, thank you so much again, talking so much about the ABC Trailblazer program, because, you know, this is all about highlighting social innovation and how we can kind of go forward as we kind of, you know, we're at a time of really great uncertainty, and we all have a role to play sort of in building a better world, a better post-COVID world. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure listening to all of you. Is there any kind of final things that you wanted to say before we tune out for today? All good?
I was just going to say that just to thank both you and Sally, because it's these kind of things that keeps this going, and these conversations, and it might be one person on the other side of this screen that hears something today who gets really inspired, or it might just be the 6 of us hanging out and having awesome conversations that make me really feel excited about the work we do. So thank you for not just today, but the work that you've been doing at SICON as well.
And for not giving up when the world all changed on you, for having an in-person conference planned, and then to pivot, as we say these days, and just keeping on going when you would have had every excuse not to. So thanks for inviting us along.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for being a part of it. It's meant sort of the world to us. And of course, thank you very much to the ANU and to ACT government for, for supporting us so that we can kind of, pivot and keep SICON going. It's been a wonderful experience for us. Sally, did you want to wrap up?
Well, I'd like to echo the others, just saying thank you, Nazia, for making SICON happen, because I know that, we were supposed to get together in March in Canberra, but, I think the program is really a really exciting webinar series. So if you haven't seen other sessions, then get onto the Social Outcomes Facebook page and have a look, because, you'll find other people who are doing amazing things as well. So thank you, Nazia, for making it happen. And
oh my goodness.
thanks to Dan and Taz and Will and Samara. So good to see you guys and connect again. I always feel energized after hearing you talk and hearing what you're up to. So thank you so much for spending some time with us today, and take care, everyone, in these kind of challenging times. So take care and thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.